Hello everyone, this is Jim Walker with Jim Walker Archery, and I'm moving to a slightly more colorful workbench today. So we're going to talk about the Easy Fletch Pro. This is a right helical gadget. And this fella right here will fletch arrows so well, you'll be amazed. All right, so what we're going to do is start here. I've got 2 arrows in front of me, so we're going to fletch one up from you, and I'm going to kind of talk about what I think about the process and the setup. A couple little commentary about things that I learned as I set them up. So like anything else, you always want to kind of clean your arrows before you put your fletching on. Okay, so I always start a little bit of alcohol. Just put the alcohol on your rag or whatever you like to use to clean your arrows. And we're just going to get some of that extra little bit of grease off of it. It's a good idea for you to wash your hands too before you do your fletching, because we're gonna touch the arrows and the feathers a little bit later. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with one. This is a pretty straightforward process. A couple little caveats here is that before you start, you need to make sure that that your nock is actually inserted, because we're actually going to put the feathers on, and then we're going to place the actual nock into this little hole right here at the top, and align it up any way we'd like. And so the first time that I did this, I did it without the nock in place and not knowing any better, and obviously that's wrong. So what happened was then the fletching was way forward. So anyway, lesson learned. Knock them, stick them in the hole, and then get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our fletching together. Now, in the videos that you'll see online on YouTube and others for the Easy Fletch Pro, you'll see that they use glue. I am not a fan of glue. I much prefer tape. Tape is just much easier to use, and the time that it takes for you to put the actual tape on the fletching and then set it up is less than it actually takes to put the glue on here and put them on and then later have to clean it. Once this thing gets mucked up with glue, it's just a tremendous amount of time and effort of scraping and acetone wash and the whole bit to clean it off. I just eliminate that. I just love tape. Another big benefit of tape is that with any fletching rig, is that when you actually put the feathers on the shaft, sometimes they're not aligned perfectly. So the one thing that's great about fletching tape is it doesn't dry instantly. So if things are a little bit awry, you can actually pull the tape up and put it back down, no harm. Much harder to do with glue. So again, big fan of tape. So I am going to fast forward. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to have you watch me because it's sort of boring and it takes a while. But once I can finish, we're going to come back and then we're going to talk about placing the actual feathers into the Easy Fletch Pro. Here we go. We're back. And I just finished adding the tape to each of my little feathers here. So the methodology here is simple. Unlike glue, you kind of slather it on and everything's all wonderful. So this requires a little bit extra step. You essentially just place your tape down on a flat surface. I use a little bit of a razor blade to get underneath the little red bit, and you kind of peel it off and try to keep the fletching straight. Within the actual fletching tool, they have little grooves in here, and it doesn't matter where you start, just stick it in here. It'll be sticky on top, obviously. So the method I use is just essentially take your thumb, give a little bit of fingernail here, and then take your fingernail and just kind of scrape it across until your feather is in the groove nicely. Now what you can do to kind of roll it in even more, use the side of a pen like this and sort of kind of roll it on its edge, and you'll get it nice and flat. Right. So when she's done, it'll look just like that. It's actually pretty flush, and you can kind of tinker with it a little bit. Just use your fingernail on the edge to kind of push it down. And again, the nice thing about tape is that you can kind of leave it like this for a while. There's no rush. Someone calls you on the phone and you need to take a break, just leave it there. It's probably will hang out for 5 minutes without drying or anything of that nature. So I'm going to go do the second one. Taking the cover off of there, little cover tape. Nice and straight. If you can, try to keep your fletching straight. You'll notice that they want to curl on their own, so you want to do your best to keep it straight. And move on to the second. And again, you're probably saying, oh man, that is so tedious. Why would I go through so much effort? Just give me some super glue. That's what I like. Well, I don't know. Super glue bothers me. That super glue stuff is so toxic. It gets on your hands and it's hard to get off. This is essentially a no-mess process with lots of opportunity to make corrections. Not so fun with super glue. All right. Same method. Try to keep everything flat, nice and straight. Put it on the last one. Using your fingernails to sort of hold it down at the base, and then let it sort of roll into the slot. There you go, pretty slick. Okay, so next we take your arrow, and I always like to have a certain lineup of my nock on my shaft. So I'm going to put this in here nicely and stick it in there, and it'll make a little. It won't make a sound. You literally have to put it in and wiggle it around until you find your spot. Okay, and then turn it if you have a particular place on the shaft that you want to place your cock feather. All right, so once that's done, then it's a simple matter of pushing down. Now this little, there's a little ring at the bottom, and it's for holding on to. It's actually nice because it helps it stand up. And essentially I'm going to push down and turn a little bit. And then what will happen is that the arms will go up into position, keeping the shaft straight until it's in a near vertical position. And then I like to grab the top and squeeze it in until it gets nice and locked. And that's essentially it. Now there is a cover that you can use. And you can place this over the top like that, and then let it sit. I don't like to do that. I have no need for this. All right, so, and I'll explain to you why. Just hold on to the top of it and then grab the whole apparatus and squeeze. You'll find this will help to push the taped fletching into place nicely. Start at the cock feather colored arm and then kind of roll around. Keep it nice and firm, and this will help to push the tape onto the shaft very nicely. And then turn it. I'm doing this much slower than I normally do. I'm usually manhandle this thing and just kind of squish it down. Okay, sorry about that. The camera had a little bit of a glitch. Anyway, continue around on the tool. Nice and firm. Get those feathers on there nicely until you're up to the cock feather area. And then there you go. Place the tool flat on a table, kind of let it fall away. And then again, there's a little spring apparatus inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to push it and then turn it and drop the arms away. All right, done. So we've now fletched our first arrow. And just to give you an idea how it comes out, just beautiful, just beautiful. Nice little helical in there, nothing too crazy. Now this one is done nearly perfectly. It's not always the case. Sometimes when you push them down, one of the ends or toward the end near the nock may actually be askew too far. So what I like to do when I have the arrow like this is I'm going to finish it. And the finishing process is starting from the front. There's a little bit of tape. Push it down, nice and firm, and then take your fingernail and run it down the feather to further seal the tape into place. You'll also be able to identify any areas where the tape didn't seal properly. This also gives you the opportunity to look at the actual feathers and make sure that they're aligned properly. And continue around, push that tape down in the front, and get your fingernail on there nice and hard. Same, each feather. And you may want to push on the side. You can play with it. That's the wonderful thing about tape, is that you can put it on here and then you can kind of jiggle it a little bit left and right. Okay, I know it's maybe a micromillimeter, but you can actually do a little bit of tweaking that is you can't do with glue. All right, push down till everything's looking beautiful. How's she look? Oh yeah, that's a beauty. Let's see if we can see that. Really nice, really nice. So that's about all there is to it. Now what I would do next is I would go on to the next step, which is gluing. Now you see a lot of people will do this, or you'll see the little glue at the touching the beginning and the back side of your fletching. And so I like to do this on every one of my arrows as a just in case. Just place your arrow shaft down on the table and just a touch of glue in the front. You don't need much. Don't go overboard. Actually, sometimes it actually dumps out, so I like to wipe it off. But just you're talking about a small little drop near the end. And I like to whip it when I'm done. And by the whipping the arrow shaft will make that glue flow. So I'm just going to whip it. All right, and that will force some of that glue to flow down into the grooves. And if you don't mind touching the glue, you can kind of wipe off a little bit of it. If you want to be a perfectionist. I do not like touching this glue. Sorry, do not like it. But that's helpful. So that's all there is to it. So we just completed fletching of one arrow using the Easy Fletch Pro. I hope you enjoyed that. Really simple, really easy to use, crazy compact, just fun to use. All right, well, y'all.